Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to Torrin's Halloween Spooktacular. I can't see what I look like. Okay. Hi. I have to put my glasses on. I just didn't want the screenshot to have my glasses because they're all... You can see the lights. They're reflective. I'm sorry. But I have to be able to read, and I didn't want to have to read like this. So, hello. This month on the channel, we are going to do movies. We're going to do horror movies. We're going to do scary movies. 3 of them. Potentially scary. 1 not so scary. I did ask you guys for suggestions. Of these 4 movies, 3 of them you did suggest. 1 I pulled myself because nobody had mentioned it and I thought it was odd. But I did pull it with you in mind, and I pulled it because I thought it would be a fun one to discuss. So how are the discussions going to work? But Torrin, what are the movies? We'll get to it. We'll get to it. You have to wait. So how are the movies going to be discussed? I actually have like 11 points that I'm going to tell you what they are. So when you watch the movies, you kind of have some of them in mind, or if you want to take notes, hey, if you want to take notes, that's fine. Or just, you know, read them over, so you might like notice things differently. I don't know if you guys are like that. I am like that. If I know sort of have an outline of things that I want to talk about, then I can watch the movie. I usually watch them twice. Once just to watch it and get the feeling, and then twice with all those things in mind. You don't have to do that, but since I have to lead the discussion, I will. 2 of these movies I have not seen, and 2 of them I have seen. Yeah. How are they going to be discussed? So I think what I'm going to do, they will either go up on Wednesdays or Thursdays. It depends on how good I'm editing. Or if I can actually get YouTube Live to work, we'll have discussions on Wednesdays. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see, you guys. If I can't figure out how to make live work, then it'll just be me talking at you and hopefully you telling me what's what in the comments. It's just the way of things. If I do have to do it that way, then I'll actually have, you know, hey, look, here's pictures, woo. But if not, then it'll just, we'll see. I still have to figure out, probably later on Monday, you may have noticed I went up on YouTube Live if I got it to work to see how it went. The only problem with doing that is you guys are all over the world and have very different schedules. So, like my Aussies might be asleep when it goes on, which would be unfortunate. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the live goes. But here are our points that we're going to discuss. And yes, I cheated and looked up stuff online to see what sort of, but this is a very generic, just like a movie discussion thing. And then I fiddled with it. So, the things that we're going to watch these movies looking at. Setting and time period, which is always good. We will pay attention to our protagonist, our antagonist, the conflict that the movie seems to be about, the secondary conflict or subplot, any attempts at resolution, the climax, the actual conflict resolution, any lessons we might have learned. We will also pay attention to music, lighting, framing, like all that sort of stuff, because I was a film nerd. I took film classes in college, so I do pay attention to that kind of thing. And then we will talk about our opinions and if we would recommend anybody else watch it. So pretty simple. I'm sticking mostly to plot kind of things. Some of them we may get into, especially like during the lessons learned, like were they trying to say something larger than whatnot? We'll see. But I thought that would be fun. I will list them under here. I will have just a list. You can copy pasta them into your own little document, what have you. Write them down by hand. I don't know. You do you. Boo. I'm, you know, hey. But yeah, so like, we're going to be serious It's me. How serious am I really? So, what are our movies? What is our schedule? Well, aren't you excited? Okay, our very first movie is going to be The Uninvited. This one was suggested a few times by a few of you. So, which makes sense, Torrin. Really? A few times by a few of you. This one popped up a few times. So we're going to watch that. I have not seen that one yet. So it looks exciting. It looks exciting to me. It looks a little bit more like a thriller as opposed to a straight horror movie, which is good because I love a thriller as well, and Elizabeth Banks is in it, and quite frankly, that's all you had to say because I'll watch anything with that woman. I really love Elizabeth Banks. I find her to be delightful and a very interesting actress because she picks good stuff. I even watched the new Power Rangers movie because she was in it. It wasn't that bad. She was cool. Yes, so The Uninvited is the first one we are going to watch. It looks pretty good. I watched the trailer, and yeah, it looks like a supernatural thriller as opposed to like a straight horror movie. But, you know, sometimes things are deceiving. So maybe it is a straight horror movie and what have you. Okay, our second movie is going to be The Train to Busan. We're going to do a foreign film. It is Korean horror, which I have never seen any of. I'm very familiar with Japanese horror. I've watched most of the big ones, or the ones that anybody has said were any good. You know, Ju-on, Ringu, The Audition, Old Boy, yada yada. You guys know. So I've watched a lot of Japanese horror movies, but I don't think I've ever watched a Korean horror movie. I may have and just don't know, because I watch a lot of things with subtitles. But yeah, The Train to Busan is a zombie movie, and but everybody says it was good. And it actually has a pretty high rating, so it's a zombie movie I haven't seen. It's shocking, because I've pretty much, I'm not going to say I've seen every zombie movie ever made, but I've seen most of the zombie movies. Like, I saw some people down there, like 28 Days Later, whatever. I've seen all those. Not Night of the Living Dead was brought up. Everybody has discussed Night of the Living Dead to death. Because they can, because it, and you can show it. I could show it to you right now on this channel. It doesn't have a copyright. Yeah, there's a whole thing about that if you're really interested in the horrible things that happened. For George Romero, never made a cent off of Night of the Living Dead, not the original. Yeah, Anywhoodles. That might be half the reason it became such a classic, though, because they could play it on TV without having to pay any royalties. So, yeah. But we're not doing Night of the Living Dead, even though it was filmed not far from where my family is. It doesn't matter. We're gonna do the Train to Busan. So yeah, looks like fun. Yay! All right. The third movie is my choice. I looked through, like I said, I looked through many of your suggestions. The Exorcist was a good one, but The Exorcist has been talked to death, and I almost did it anyway because I know so much about The Exorcist. I ended up, I had an advertising and marketing class. I minored in journalism, and The Exorcist featured heavily in one of my papers because they use subliminal messages in that movie when it was initially released, which have been pulled from it since. Like, anything you watch now, they're not going to be in there. But initially they were, and they got into trouble for it. For instance, my mother, it was the scariest movie my mother had ever seen, and she saw it in theaters when it was released, and it terrified her. When I was 12, she left me at home at night because by that time I was already madly in love with scary movies. So she rented it for me, took my brothers, left me alone in the house at night to watch it by myself, so I would be terrified. Why my mother wanted to terrify me, I don't know. And whatevs, it just wasn't, I didn't think it was very scary. Sorry guys who find it really scary. I know a lot of people, the demon possession movies really freak them out. They don't really freak me out much. I think it helps if you're highly religious or Christian, you find them to be more disturbing. I don't really believe in demons, so... Anywhoodles! It wasn't very scary. My mom could not figure out why I didn't find it terrifying. And when I was in college, I found out why. Because when my mother saw it, interspersed, I don't know if you guys know how subliminal messaging I was doing about advertising. It just came across this in a giant book. Because there was no internet back then, y'all. Oh, it was library books. Ooh. A lot of the times advertisers use sex to sell things. So there will be like body parts and ice cubes, or sex written out in smoke, or you don't see it, your brain registers it back in your subconscious subliminally, but you don't, like, it's not the first thing you see. So it'll make you want to buy a product, etc. What they did with The Exorcist is cut, and it's a split second. Like, it's so fast that you don't see it, you know, spliced between frames, like frame to frame to frame. They'll just put it right in there for half a frame or a frame, so you don't see it, but your brain registers it. You see it, but you don't. You guys know how this works. Anywhoodles, what they had in The Exorcist to make it more terrifying and make it feel more foreboding, they had put in pictures from the Holocaust. I know some of you guys have seen pictures from the Holocaust, from the concentration camps. They had some of those pictures in there, which are horrifying. They had traffic accidents in there, the horror of a traffic accident, just stills of things like this. Animal cruelty, because back in the 70s, guys, they just killed animals on film. Did you know? Never ever watch Cannibal Holocaust. Just don't ever watch that. I have never watched it and will never, because they torture animals in that movie and I cannot. No. But they gave you such a horrible feeling of dread and terror, and it wasn't necessarily what you were seeing, but it was what your brain was registering, which is why that movie terrified my mother. Now, if you look online now, this is what I find interesting, because I was trying to make this point to somebody. If you look online now, it says that never happened. It did. That is what happens, because my mother has watched The Exorcist since and went, why was this movie so scary? I'm just saying. Now, they said, oh no, what people were seeing was every now and then you see Pazuzu, you see the demon, right? And it's just like a snippet of a face. So they still put things in, but when they transferred it to like VCR, because that's what it was, Betamax, when they did the transfer to video cassette, etc., they had already taken, because like I said, they got in trouble for that because somebody ratted them out. And a lot of people were like really terrified in the theaters. They had to take them all out, so then they spliced in these other things like the demon face for just a split second. So people at home on their VCRs could pause, because you can pause it frame by frame. It was all gone by then. So now the internet's like, oh, it was a legend. It never really happened, and this is what people were really seeing. No, it wasn't. They really had bad things in there. They got in huge trouble for it too. The Exorcist is a film. They got in a lot of trouble for lots of things. Did you also know there is a serial killer in The Exorcist? There is. They didn't find out he was a serial killer till after the fact. He killed gay men in New York. They only ever got him for one crime. He was one of those torso murderers. My true crime people know what I'm talking about. They only got him for the one crime, but they suspect him of the other ones that were exactly like that one, as it were. He was the CAT scan tech, radiology tech. Yeah, serial killer. Okay, that's enough about The Exorcist. I told you I could go on. Why didn't we cover The Exorcist? Because everybody else has. Anywhoodles. So that's what two. Oh yes, the third one. My choice, which is not The Exorcist. My choice is The Witch. The Witch. Because the W is two V's. Olden times. It is very historical. It is. Some of you may have seen it. I'm going to go with most of you probably didn't because it's a little weird. But I think you will like it. It's about Puritans that came here. It is back, set not too far from, I don't know if they ever mentioned the Salem witch trials, maybe. So it's the 16 whatevers, 1620s. I can't remember when the witch trials happened. 1600s though. So Anywhoodles. But it is historical. They do speak in ye olden tongue. Not quite Shakespeare, but you know, it takes a minute to get in the groove of how they talk. But I think a lot of you will really appreciate it because the costumes were all handmade, hand sewn. They are period appropriate, hairstyles, everything. So a lot of you will like that. It is not overly gory. There are a couple parts where it's a little, but it is not meant to be a gore fest. It is truly scary horror movie. But I will tell you, a lot of people I know started it and are like, it was boring, and I'm like, they don't like the slow build of dread. I love the slow build of dread. Ooh, yes. So we're gonna do that one because I want to talk about it. So The Witch will be our third one, and finally our grand finale is so that everyone can join in. We're going to do Hocus Pocus. Now, Hocus Pocus was actually not on any service. Oh, The Train to Busan is on Netflix. The Witch was on Netflix or Amazon Prime. I can't remember which. I know it's on one of them though. Hocus Pocus is not. Hocus Pocus is not on any of my streaming services, but it is currently playing on cable on multiple channels. So we're doing that one last because sometimes during this month you will be able to rewatch Hocus Pocus. Also, that way everybody can join in because Hocus Pocus is not scary. And it has a happy ending. Spoilers. So we're going to end with a happy one because isn't that good? And we're going to end with one that everybody can talk about, which will be great. I think it'll be great. But that'll be our last one for Halloween. We're going to end with Hocus Pocus because, you know, Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, Sarah Jessica Parker, what's not to love? So we're doing 2 witch movies back to back. I don't care. I'm into witches. I feel like witches this year. There were a lot of movies that did not make the cut. Instead of The Witch, I thought we were going to end up doing Hereditary. Not one of you suggested it, so it didn't go on the list. But The Witch did. I don't know. I want to talk about that one. And I thought it would be more y'all's speed. But, yeah, nobody mentioned Hereditary. You guys, the movie was really good. But, oh well. What else was there that, there are a lot of the old ones like Creature from the Black Lagoon and, you know, original Dracula or Frankenstein or what have you, like the old Universal monster movies, which would have been fun for classics. I did get an Evil Dead. You guys know I love Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, all that stuff. Nobody said Scream, which was interesting. Nobody said Cabin in the Woods, which is one of my favorites. Yeah, the comedy horror movies didn't have as much of a showing. I did get a couple for like the bad horror movies. Somebody mentioned Killer Clowns from Outer Space, which is terrible. It's just so bad. But it's now considered a classic of badness, I guess. Yeah, so there wasn't no critters, no ghoulies, which were, I loved those when I was young. I don't even think anybody mentioned any of the Nightmare on Elm Streets. I did get a couple Friday the 13th, as it were. Halloween, of course, which only the first one. Or is it the third one? The Season of the Witch? I actually kind of like that one. It has nothing to do. It's a great little horror movie all itself, but it has nothing to do with Michael Myers at all. It's really weird. I don't know what was going on in that franchise. Yeah, I didn't pick any of the big three. The Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street. None of the big three. Because I did notice not a single soul picked anything in the torture porn genre, which is good. I do like the first Saw movie. Never bothered with any of the rest of them. I do actually like Hostel, but only the first one. And only for what it was trying to do. But even I watch half that movie like this because it is torture porn is what it is. And they aren't really my favorite genre, as it were. I do think Hostel has its merits, but it's not a movie that I would recommend to most people. The original Saw, I think, is actually really good and is mostly a thriller. But after that, they just kind of went to garbage. I haven't watched any of the other Saw movies, so I don't know. I'm just assuming they're garbage, so who knows. Maybe there are some merits to be had. Yeah. I'm looking at what I have down there, because I do have a few horror movies. Oh, Delamore. I still need to do that one day. That's just one of my favorite movies, not necessarily favorite horror movies. Anywhoodles. I don't know. Oh, somebody did want to do It. So this is why I'm not doing It. Do you do the original miniseries, or do you do the remake? It's too much to ask to do the original miniseries because that's like 6 hours. That's a lot to ask people to watch kind of in 1 week. So we could have done the remake, which I thought was fine, but it is actually not on any of my streaming services. I did see it on HBO Go, I believe, but I think it's gone now. I did want to go see the second one in the theater, but haven't managed to go because that would require me leaving my house, and we know how that goes. So, Anywhoodles, you have your assignments. The Uninvited, Train to Busan, The Vitch, Hocus Pocus. The first two I haven't seen, so that should be fun. I get to watch them with you. Like I said, I am going to experiment here shortly with getting like Facebook Live up and running. We'll see. Facebook Live, oh my God. YouTube Live. I'm never even on to Facebook anymore. And then listen to me. Facebook Live. It's because I watch everybody else's Facebook Lives. That's why. When I'm actually on. Okay, I watch Kiyoma's Facebook Live. She's the only one that ever puts them up. But anyways. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can make it work. Maybe we'll have a live discussion. Maybe we won't. We shall see. Anywhoodles, I'm really excited about this. You know, this is my favorite genre of movie. And I want to see what's up. I want to see if you guys have good taste. Grant, I've already seen Hocus Pocus. Everybody likes Hocus Pocus. I don't know. I don't know how many of you have seen The Witch. I guess we'll find out. If you think I have good taste. I've been hit and miss with you guys. We used to do movies a lot more on this channel, and some of you really love the movies I picked, and some of you were like, nah, this sucks. Why did I watch this? Valid. I do have some interesting tastes. Anywhoodles, that's it. I'm leaving. I'm going to go and edit now. So I am really looking forward to this month. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be super fun. I'm hoping Joe will watch at least one movie with me. And Hocus Pocus is taping for me tonight. The very first showing is this evening. So I already have my DVR set up to tape it so I can rewatch it. Because it's been a while since I've seen it. Anywhoodles. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. We will have hair next week. We may have this hair. We may not. The girl's going to tell me. I don't know. Alrighty, until then, have a great weekend. Be good at it. I love you guys.